No producers. No cameras. No fake smiles. What happened backstage that night was never meant to be seen by the world, but somehow, the secret slipped through the cracks, and the internet went into absolute chaos. The love and hip-hop universe has witnessed plenty of drama, but nothing like this. Two names, Mendeecees and Yandy, once hailed as the franchise's ultimate power couple, were suddenly at the center of an explosive backstage confrontation that changed everything. It began like whispers behind a curtain. Quiet tension. Shifting eyes. But then, one small spark, and everything detonated. According to multiple witnesses, years of buried resentment, jealousy, and betrayal erupted that night. The shouting was so fierce that security had to step in before things turned physical. People backstage described it as watching a marriage implode in real time. No script. No director. Just raw emotion, the kind that makes you forget it is even a TV show. It was supposed to be a night of glitter and champagne. A reunion special, the cast dressed to perfection, cameras ready to capture the laughs, the tears, the closure. But behind those flashing lights, something darker was building. Backstage, the air was thick with tension. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. Assistants whispered in corners. Something was off. Everyone could feel it, like the silence before a storm. At the center of it all stood Mendeecees Harris and Yandy Smith, once a symbol of loyalty and love, now two people barely speaking. Fans had followed their journey for years, the sacrifices, the prison time, the public forgiveness. They were supposed to be unbreakable. But behind the cameras, trust had already cracked. Whispers of jealousy. Rumors of control. Silent nights that spoke louder than words. And that night, all those fractures finally shattered. It started subtly. Yandy entered first, radiant, composed, giving her usual smile to the producers. Then came Mendeecees, colder, quieter, carrying a kind of tension you could almost see. They barely acknowledged each other. Not even a nod. Makeup artists stopped mid-brush. Crew members pretended to work while secretly recording whispers in their group chats. Something was about to explode, and everyone knew it. The breaking point came during a pre-show interview. A producer asked what seemed like a harmless question: "How have you two managed to stay strong through everything you have faced?" Yandy smiled, her voice smooth as ever, talking about mutual respect and growth. But Mendeecees? He just stared straight ahead. When he finally spoke, his voice cut through the air like a knife. Respect goes both ways, and sometimes people forget that. The entire room froze. Yandy's smile vanished. That single sentence, that one moment, was the start of the storm. The interview ended in chaos. Yandy walked off set, heels echoing like gunshots down the hallway. Mendeecees called her name, but she never looked back. Moments later, they both disappeared behind the curtains, into a small, unmonitored corner of the studio usually reserved for crew breaks. And that is where everything unraveled. According to insiders who stood just feet away, their voices echoed down the hall. It started as an argument, but quickly turned into an all-out emotional war. Accusations flew. Secrets spilled. Every unspoken grudge from the past few years came crashing to the surface. Witnesses said it did not sound like a TV fight, it sounded like heartbreak. The kind of pain you cannot fake for ratings. Someone backstage reportedly whispered, "This is not entertainment anymore, this is destruction." What happened next remains unclear, but one thing is certain: the fallout was catastrophic. Cast members were left in tears. Producers went silent. Within hours, social media caught wind of the chaos. Clips leaked. Fan pages exploded. Twitter threads went viral with captions like, "Did Yandy and Mendeecees just implode backstage? Flushed face fire, love and hip-hop just turned into war and heartbreak." And as the internet dissected every frame, every whisper, every body language cue, one question echoed everywhere: is this the end of love and hip-hop's most powerful couple? Or, was this just the beginning of a scandal that has been quietly brewing for years? Because after what went down backstage that night, one truth became undeniable: nothing in the love and hip-hop world will ever be the same again. You could feel it before it happened, that kind of silence that comes right before an explosion. And when it finally hit, it hit like a grenade. According to insiders, Yandy's voice cut through the backstage chaos like a blade: "You embarrassed me in front of the whole world." Her voice was trembling, part fury, part heartbreak. The kind of trembling that tells you this is not just a fight. This is a collapse. She went on, her tone shaking but sharp: "I built everything we have while you were gone. I held this family together. And this is how you repay me." Everyone froze. You could have heard a pin drop. But Mendeecees, he was not about to stay silent this time. He fired back with the same venom: "You built it for yourself, not for us. You care more about your brand, your image, your followers, not this family. Not me." That one line? It shattered whatever composure was left. The shouting got louder, echoing down the studio hallway. Crew members started creeping closer, pretending to check equipment, just to listen. Even the cast, the ones used to chaos, stood frozen, eyes wide, as years of secrets and resentment came spilling out for everyone to hear. Mendeecees accused Yandy of turning their marriage into a brand, a storyline, that she was chasing influence instead of intimacy. Yandy shot right back. She told him he had no idea what it took to hold a home together while he was away, that his ego could not handle her success because it reminded him of what he had lost. The words were daggers, each one sharper than the last. It was not love anymore, it was war. And then came the moment that stopped everyone cold. Mendeecees' voice cracked as he shouted, "You went behind my back, Yandy. You made a financial move without telling me. You think I would not find out?" The air was electric. Yandy froze, but she did not deny it. Instead, she looked straight at him and said the one thing that flipped the entire narrative, "At least I did not lie about where I was last month." Gasps echoed through the hallway. Every bystander looked at each other, jaws dropped. That was it, the point of no return. The whispers that had been circulating quietly for months, about infidelity, about betrayal, suddenly did not feel like gossip anymore. They felt real. Security was called. Producers rushed in. But it was already too late. The damage was done. Yandy's eyes were glassy with tears. "You are not the man I fell in love with," she said quietly. And Mendeecees snapped right back, "And you are not the woman I fought for." Those words cut deeper than any scream. No one dared to speak. Not the crew. Not the cast. Because they all knew, they had just witnessed the death of something that once looked unbreakable. By the time security finally intervened, both were shaking, with rage, with heartbreak, with exhaustion. Yandy stormed off to her dressing room, slamming the door so hard the mirror rattled. Mendeecees stayed behind, pacing like a man trying to walk away from his own thoughts. "I am done," he muttered. "I cannot do this anymore." And just like that, the power couple of love and hip-hop became a cautionary tale, right before everyone's eyes. Within minutes, phones were out. Texts flew. Rumors spread like wildfire. One cast member told producers later, "We have all had drama on this show, but nothing like that. That was real. That was pain." Online, the fans could not look away. Twitter threads exploded. Screenshots. TikToks. Everyone had an opinion. Yandy and Mendeecees are done. That was not acting, that was heartbreak. You could see the love dying in real time. And while the world dissected every rumor, every angle, every possible truth, backstage, chaos was unfolding. Producers were panicking. The reunion episode, which had been hyped as the biggest one yet, was now at risk of being scrapped entirely. Cameras were shut off. Lawyers were called. Statements were drafted. But everyone knew one thing for sure, there was no coming back from this. Inside her dressing room, Yandy sat in silence. Her makeup smeared. Her phone vibrating non-stop, messages from friends, co-stars, even her publicist asking if they needed to get ahead of the story. But she said nothing. For the first time, she had no words, just tears. "It is not supposed to be like this," she whispered to her reflection. "Not like this." Across the hall, Mendeecees sat in a dark break room, his fists clenched, his chest rising and falling. His phone lit up with missed calls, but he ignored every single one. "She has been lying for months," he muttered. "And now she wants to play the victim." It was the sound of something breaking quietly, not on camera, not for ratings, but for real. By morning, the internet was on fire. Every entertainment blog had the same headline, "Love and Hip-Hop's Golden Couple Implodes Backstage." But this was not just a scandal. It was a shift. The cast was forced to take sides. The crew whispered about contracts and cover-ups. And behind the scenes, producers knew they had lost control of their own show. Because when love turns into survival, when fame turns into resentment, and when trust turns into ammunition, you do not just get a breakup. You get a war. And this was only the beginning. The words hurled backstage were not just anger, they were daggers. Every accusation hit an old wound that had never truly healed. And by the end of that night, those wounds were bleeding in public. Within hours, the fight that was supposed to stay hidden inside the walls of a studio became everybody's business. A makeup artist who overheard part of the argument reportedly sent a voice note to a gossip blogger. A crew member texted a friend, that friend tweeted something cryptic. And just like that, the dominoes started to fall. By midnight, the internet was on fire. Fan pages were dissecting every rumor. Twitter threads with hashtags like #Yandy vs Mendeecees and #Backstage blowup were trending across social media. Memes, reactions, voiceovers. It was chaos, digital chaos. But what the fans did not know was how deep this betrayal truly went. According to insiders close to production, the financial betrayal that Mendeecees accused Yandy of was not some small disagreement. It was massive. Yandy had allegedly signed a private deal with a production company, a lucrative spin-off centered entirely on her. Her businesses. Her motherhood. Her image. The contract? Worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. A potential launchpad for her solo career. But there was a catch. Mendeecees had no idea. To Yandy, it was not betrayal. It was survival. "I had to protect myself," she reportedly confided to a close friend. "If this marriage falls apart, I still need to build something for me and the kids." But to Mendeecees, it was unforgivable. "We were supposed to do everything together," he told a confidant later that week. "She's making moves behind my back like I'm a stranger." That one revelation flipped everything. Because in his eyes, this was not business, it was disrespect. And in hers, it was self-preservation. Then came the other bombshell. The one Yandy threw in the heat of the moment, the one that left everyone frozen. The trip Mendeecees had taken, the one he said was for business? It was not. A source close to the couple claimed he was seen in Miami, with a woman Yandy had always suspected of being more than a friend. No photos ever surfaced publicly, but the whispers were relentless. Those quiet doubts had been growing between them for months, and that night, they exploded. So now the air was heavy with two betrayals, one professional, one personal. And suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Once word spread through the set, the cast fractured. Lines were drawn. Some defended Yandy, praising her as a strong woman who held the family together while he was incarcerated. Others sided with Mendeecees, accusing her of chasing fame and turning their marriage into a marketing plan. Backstage, producers were split too. Should they cancel the reunion taping? One executive reportedly said, "We can't have them on stage like this, it'll explode on camera." But another producer saw dollar signs. "Are you kidding? This is the biggest storyline we've ever had. The fans will eat it up." And that was it. The decision was made. The show would go on. The atmosphere was unreal. Colder. Sharper. Like walking into a room filled with broken glass. Yandy and Mendeecees arrived separately, no greetings, no eye contact. Their dressing rooms were placed on opposite ends of the studio. Security doubled. Cast members were warned, stay neutral on camera. When the taping began, the tension was suffocating. The couple who once sat hand in hand were now sitting on opposite couches, eyes locked, hearts closed. The host tried to ease into the conversation. It did not work. Then came the question everyone was waiting for, where do you two stand right now? Yandy was first to speak, her voice calm but heavy, like someone who had carried too much for too long. "I'm tired," she said. "I'm tired of holding everything together. I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of being blamed for trying to build a future." Mendeecees leaned forward, his jaw tight. "And I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter," he shot back. "Like my opinion means nothing. Like you can just make decisions without me and expect me to smile on cue." The studio fell silent. This was not scripted. This was not entertainment. This was collapse, captured live. By the end of the taping, nothing was fixed. No hugs. No apologies. No reconciliation. They left the stage separately, just as they had arrived. But the damage was done. Fans who once rooted for their love were now split right down the middle. Twitter timelines became battlegrounds. YouTube channels began uploading exclusive breakdowns. Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to the fight. Inside the network, executives were celebrating the viewership spike, but behind closed doors, even they whispered the truth: we might have just lost our most iconic couple. And they were right. Because what started as a private argument had turned into a public implosion, one that would leave a permanent scar on both their careers. But this was not the end. If anything, this was the beginning of something darker. Because when betrayal meets fame, and love meets the camera, what follows is not just heartbreak. It is exposure. And in the world of reality TV, exposure is deadly. The morning after that explosive reunion taping, Atlanta woke up to chaos. What was once a carefully constructed reality TV dynasty had started to collapse in real time. The empire that had made millions off the illusion of love was now eating itself alive, and at the center of the wreckage stood Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris. They were no longer the polished couple fans had worshipped for years. They were no longer the storybook example of loyalty and redemption. Now, they were the headline. By sunrise, every gossip blog from the Shade Room to Hollywood Unlocked had broken the story. Yandy and Mendeecees explode backstage. Marriage in shambles. Inside the fight that shook love and hip-hop. Clips from the reunion, especially those fiery, gut-wrenching moments where they accused each other of betrayal, leaked online within hours. Social media erupted. Fans flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with reactions. Memes, edits, theories, it was like the internet was reliving the breakup in real time. Some defended them, calling it just a rough patch. Others were ruthless, accusing them of being fake, greedy, and drunk on fame. But while the world was laughing, arguing, and dissecting every second, the real damage was happening behind the scenes. For producers at VH1, this was not entertainment anymore, this was panic. Yandy and Mendeecees had been their most bankable couple, the cornerstone of the brand. Sponsorship deals, spin-offs, family specials, everything had been built around their image of love that survived everything. Now that image was gone. And so were the checks. It's like watching a dynasty collapse, one insider admitted. They were our golden couple. Now, we're not even sure they'll still be together next season. The fear was not exaggerated. Because while the media was devouring the story, new allegations were quietly surfacing from both sides, and they made things even worse. According to sources close to Yandy, Mendeecees had been meeting privately with a new management team, one that was pushing him to rebrand as a solo act, a man independent of Yandy's shadow. The message was clear: you don't need her to stay relevant. It was a move that threatened to destroy every joint venture, every shared brand deal, every dollar tied to their image as a couple. But on Yandy's side, there were whispers too, darker ones. Rumors claimed that she had already started planning for single life long before the fight even happened. Allegedly, she had purchased a separate property in Atlanta under a business name, her safety net if everything fell apart. By now, fans were connecting dots like detectives. Every cryptic Instagram story, every deleted picture, every unfollow, it all seemed to confirm the same thing: the split was real. And they were hiding it. Publicly, both stayed silent. No interviews. No lives. Not even a denial. But behind the silence was pure chaos. According to insiders, they weren't even speaking. Their team of publicists had to act as mediators, sending business updates between them like peace treaties. Even the cast could feel it. You can literally feel the tension when they walk into the room, one cast member said. Everyone just goes quiet. It's like waiting for another explosion. And that explosion came, 2 weeks later. An anonymous source dropped a bombshell, a series of private emails allegedly showing that Yandy had been in talks with another network to headline a new show without Mendeecees. The emails were never verified, but the damage was instant. Fans accused her of betrayal, of abandoning the franchise that built her. Others defended her, saying she was smart for preparing for life beyond a crumbling marriage. But Mendeecees did not stay silent for long. He posted a photo on Instagram, walking alone down a dark street, with a caption that sent the internet into meltdown: "Loyalty ain't for everyone." Within minutes, it went viral. Tens of thousands of comments. Hundreds of reaction videos. Was he calling her out? Or was he playing the victim before she could speak her truth? A few hours later, Yandy fired back with a pointed quote post of her own: "Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's survival." And just like that, the war went public. Every post, every caption, every emoji became ammunition. They weren't just fighting for love anymore, they were fighting for the narrative. Behind the scenes, everything was falling apart,